I think you can't do anything about them. They're
I think we need them.
Yeah, we need them. Should we say something to Sally, who's down there?
Oh,
She's gonna be speaking. Maybe you could just go tell her.
yeah,
I could go tell her.
that
I'll
would,
just go
that
tell her
would
what
be
you just
great.
said.
That would be great.
I know you. No, I'm Judy. I haven't got the name.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Ian.
This is wonderful. Yeah, I'm really excited to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Mom and Dad.
They're here online. They're dating right now. So they're, yeah. They're zooming in like the
I think it was like close to 5.
Oh, here we go. Quite real. Yeah, so when it gets to the end of the beginning pages, when it gets to the end.
Now time for everyone at home to turn off their videos and mute themselves.
It doesn't say client name anyway. So they'll kind of scroll through the first several pages. Okay. I'll help you figure out when to start. Okay, thank you. There's the hall. Looks like they might have needed more. Good turnout. Is it? How many are online? 28? Yeah, that's good. Are we ready? Because our time is. Start the service. Okay, I don't know why they didn't scroll through all the screens though. And now it's on me, so. Don't join on. Don't join on. So you don't have to do anything with that, you can just leave it there. Yep, go right ahead. Good morning. Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Janet Clark, and I'm a relatively new member of the Society and our wonderful Climate Action Group. It is very good to see you this morning in the Great Hall and online. If you are new or returning after a time away, we're very glad to see you here. Feel free to fill out our blue welcome card, which you can find in front of you there, and put in the offering plate later in the service. There's also an online version that you will find through the link in the chat. And if you are on Zoom, we ask that you please keep your videos off, except during the greeting. I really want to thank everyone who helped make this service happen. We have quite a few volunteers. Our guest pianist, Megan Kelsey Wright, has enjoyed a 45-year career as a concert pianist, accompanist, teacher, and one of the founders of the Northampton Community Music Center. Our guest choir director is Jeffrey Hudson, director of Pioneer Valley Capella, Quabbin Valley Pro Musica, and the chorus at Greenwood Music Camp's Junior Division. For the offertory, the choir will sing The Paper Reeds by the Brook, a movement from Randall Thompson's work, The Peaceable Kingdom, based on the book of Isaiah. Our postlude is from Jeffrey Hudson's own Eco Oratorio, titled A Passion for the Planet. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and its principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that we in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibilities to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we also affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. And now we'll begin our service. So I'm going to read a responsive reading if you look on your order of service. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness of life. How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Surely our river cannot already be hastening to the sea of non-being. Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended. We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle.
And now it's time for the lighting of our chalice. Hear me, 4 quarters of the world. A relative I am. Give me the strength to walk the soft earth. Give me the eyes to see and the strength to understand. Look upon these faces of children without number, that they may face the winds and walk the good road to the day of quiet. This is my prayer, hear me. Now we will continue with singing hymn 203, All Creatures of Earth and Sky.
Now it is time to greet one another. If you're on Zoom, you are invited to turn on your videos and wave and say hello in the chat. It's helpful to switch to gallery view. Hello, Rick King. Hello, Gail and John. Hello, Evelyn. Hello, Kathy Lilly. Hello, Anya. Hello, Nort, my family.
Hi, Joanna.
Goodness,
Hi, Craig. Kathy Brown. Nice to see you.
goodness, goodness. Hello,
Hi, Claire.
everyone.
Nice to see you, Claire. Steve and Teresa. Hi.
Ah,
Hi, Rick. Hi, Sherry Hall Smith.
it has been good to see. It has been good to see everyone. Please remember to turn off your videos at this point if you're on Zoom. We'll now hear our social justice minute.
Good morning. I'm Rich West, and this is a Social Justice Minute, which recognizes that our faith calls us powerfully to action on social justice and the environment. Everyone who knows about the consequences of climate change knows that many of the poorest nations in the world, through no fault of their own, will bear the brunt of the coming catastrophe. Haiti, the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, is already buffeted each year by one natural disaster after another, to say nothing of the political problems they suffer from as well. Since 2010, the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence has opened its heart and pocketbook to this beleaguered country, sending thousands of dollars each year to Haiti through the work of two groups, Hands Up for Haiti and Sonia Aidi. Hands Up for Haiti's mission is to provide life-saving healthcare to the sickest and most impoverished people in northern Haiti through Santé Communautaire, community-based healthcare, delivered by Haitians on the ground in collaboration with neighbors to the north. Sonia Aidi also operates in North Haiti, and it's a group of Haitian and international humanitarians who collaborate to uplift the Haitian community through education, economic development, and healthcare. USNF has been supporting their SEMA School of Hope, a primary school for impoverished Haitian children. Please consider donating to either or both. The memo line in the chat has links, and also the folks who organized this service were kind enough to put information on page 3 of the order so that you can take that home with you and refer to it at your leisure. Thank you.
Look at our brokenness. We know that in all creation, only the human family has strayed from the sacred way. We know that we are the ones who are divided. We are the ones who must come back together to walk in the sacred way. Sacred One, teach us love, compassion, and honor, that we may heal the earth and each other.
Our generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half of the proceeds of each week's offering support the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. The organizations we are currently supporting are listed on the screen. If you are participating on Zoom or YouTube, you can mail in a check or donate online. The link is in the chat. Now we'll hear our offertory.
The meditation this morning is a poem by David Wagoner entitled Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place for you. If you leave it, you may come back again saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. We will be silent together.
Please rise in body and spirit for hymn 163, for the earth forever turning, 163.
Peace.
So for today's central message of healing the earth, we asked 4 people to reflect on their inspiration in climate action and on that action itself. We'll first hear from Sally Lawton.
What is this?
So
I thought I was going to be last.
no, we want you first. We want you first. Ignore
Well-
that sign.
I guess I don't need that. Now, where's the microphone? This is it?
That's it, it hears you.
Can you hear me? That good? Why do I find a compelling interest in climate change at my age? Because it is so important, but also because it is so interesting. It has grown from lifelong interests in nature, science, concerns about ideas expressed in books or in person, about women versus men, about poverty, and about prejudices of various sorts. My experiences are individual, but these problems confront everyone. Woo! Let's see. My first early experiences were with wildflowers. In 1932, when we lost our home in Wellesley and moved to a country town, Sherburne, to a dairy farm, I remember 2 walks with my dad. I was in first grade. We walked to a snowy pine grove beyond the cow barn, quiet and beautiful. Then, in the spring, we went again to find pink lady slippers growing from dry brown pine needles dropped from the tall pines above. We looked and appreciated the place, the air, and the scent of the pines. It was an experience. I have many such memories from various places in New England and in California. That summer, we moved to a small seaside village by the mouth of the North River. My dad taught me to swim on the side stroke and to float in the ocean. And when my dad noticed blackberries ripening on the nearby abandoned tennis court, he and I gathered many full containers, and my mother made jam. Both flowers and food gathering were recurring experiences for me and my dad, lifelong. He lived with my mother until she became mentally sick around 1959, and then lived with my family, and when my mother came too, until his death in 1989. My mother had died in 1967. Another pine grove in my memory belonged to our house, our own house, from World War I, from 1936 until World War I recalled my dad. Tech crew, please show the slide of my house. My parents restored an abandoned house built in 1778 to a great location in Norwell, another poor small country town at that time. Our house was placed in front of the pine grove where we enjoyed cookouts in the evening with the crew who specialized in restoration. And as the night came on, we listened to the wood thrushes repeating their beautiful song again and again. In this house, for a certain time, my parents began to argue angrily about politics, the New Deal. It was very upsetting to me, but also stimulating. My dad defended the business viewpoint, and my mother brought up the social problems. I felt my mother's empathy, which drew me more than whatever my dad was arguing. I never heard them argue that way again. A consistent pattern reinforces these experiences, and so I feel their strength. Reading classics has been an important part of my education. Learning in retirement led me to read The Starry Messenger by Galileo, a bestseller book in his time. The telescope revealed mountains on the moon, revolutionary. I also read Between Man and Beast and Unlikely Explorer, The Evolution Debates, and the African Adventure that took the Victorian world by storm, about Paul du Chaillu and his introduction of the gorilla, the beast, to the European public. He had a lifelong secret, a mixed racial background revealed in the book, studied in the book. And lately I've been reading Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, a Native American woman who teaches college students the subjects of botany and ecology and the practices and principles of Native peoples who have much to contribute to resist a money-centered life. I also recommend Money, the True Story of a Made-Up Thing by Jacob Goldstein. Well worth reading. As well, I've been reading current books and my return mail, which tackle the various problems associated with climate change. Poverty, our food industry, and the necessary transition of our energy sector to sustainability. What can you do? I haven't flown since the 90s, and since then I've been contributing small amounts of money to many organic organizations, so I get the return mail. In 2007, my house was weatherized and I had solar hot water installed. This year, my gas stove was disconnected. I cook with an induction hot plate to save energy and fossil fuel. There are many choices like this you can make.
Thank you, Sarah. That was amazing. I think this is yours.
Yep.
Okay.
Good morning. Wow, what a gift. When, where, and to whom we're born is a matter of luck. And when the dice rolled, I did well. The home I came into was healthy, and safe, and also the closest on our street to a river, deep woods, and an entrance to a state park. I enjoyed free rein in the woods, along the stream and on the trails in the park, some leading to a series of ridges called the Sleeping Giant, strikingly similar to Mount Tom here. Life at home as the middle of three boys, each born a year apart, was a chaotic blur, as my mom says. Most memories are of the measures my parents, mostly my dad, had to take to keep us in line. School was also about lots of rules, sorry to say, for the young folks here. I'm sure it's better now. And the Catholic Church added an exclamation point on my aversion to authority. Books provided open space when I couldn't be outside. I remember reading about the early settlements of pilgrims and pioneers and being much more enamored and inspired by the ways of indigenous people, often depicted as more stealthy because of their deep knowledge of the land and the rhythms. I took to meandering in the woods silently, without a rustle or broken twig, and I still do. Fashioning things from wood became a pastime. Eventually, I found friends and played on sport teams and such, but human encounters and relationships never brought the same satisfaction as being at the water's edge or on a woodland trail. As time went on, ambivalence towards people and societal norms became antipathy, especially as the damage to our environment grew. My first love was threatened. I'm sorry to say that my grief often turned to anger at those complacent or who plundered to enrich themselves. My path through college and career centered on physics and engineering, abstract concepts less subject to human failings. Marriage and children meant the family became the focus outside of work, but as the kids grew, Susie and I found more time for social justice and environmental efforts. Now our children have their lives elsewhere, and over the last decade of activism, I've come to several realizations. First, my life experience was one of privilege and easy access, not just to the advantages and comforts of a middle-class life, but peaceful and beautiful landscapes, benefits sadly unavailable to most people. Being a white male meant easier access to a good career and financial stability, and inflated notions that my ideas were unique or significant. I now see that my quest to defend our Mother Nature was clouded by entitlement and self-importance. As the environmental damage increased, just so my anger increased and sense of urgency and frustration with those who couldn't see or were indifferent to what was happening. I've now come to a clearer belief about what is important and necessary. The conditions faced by most people don't allow for this appreciation of Mother Nature. They bring instead hardship and increasing suffering from our climate crisis. The dice rarely fall as kindly as they did for me, and now I see that striving for social and environmental justice are synonymous, that my privilege calls me to strengthen these efforts, and while humans do cause great harm to our environment, we're also capable of miraculous things when we open our hearts and our arms to each other. Bringing people together to make change and build more resilient and inclusive communities is our greatest hope. There's a live recording of Stephen Still's song where it's Stop children, what's that sound? Everybody. And at the end, he's just sort of rambling on about protests, and he says, but brothers and sisters, if we can't do it with a smile on our faces and love in our hearts, it's not worth doing at all. Thank you.
This is excerpted from a speech by Severin Suzuki, speaking at the 1992 Rio Conference, representing the Environmental Children's Organization, a group of 12 and 13-year-olds hoping to make a difference. At school, even in kindergarten, you teach us how to behave in the world. You teach us not to fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our mess, not to hurt other creatures, to share, not to be greedy. Then why do you go out and do the things you tell us not to do? You are deciding what kind of a world we are growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world. And we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. Are we even on your list of priorities? My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you. Please make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
Talking about my experience with climate change and how I live in this time feels a bit like a fish talking about the water. I've noticed recently that everything in my life has pointed back to what it means to be in right relation, and living in this time under climate change is no exception. I grew up here, and I moved back to this area about 5 years ago. Last year, my partner and I moved from Amherst to East Hampton, and we made a point to meet any neighbors we could while we were working in the yard, going for a walk, driving by. We'd each moved at least 10 times in the last 10 years, and this was our attempt to start putting down roots in a deeper way. We felt like we were making progress, getting drinks with some neighbors here, having a dog play date with the neighbors over there. A few weeks ago, we felt the urgency of getting to know people in a new way. Our neighbor's house caught fire in the middle of the night. My partner called 911, and I called our other neighbor across the street who works for the fire department. But we'd never met the people who lived in the house that was burning, and we couldn't contact them. The flames were 40 feet high, and we worried that the cars on fire in the driveway could explode, so we didn't approach. The dispatcher reached them, fortunately, and they all got out. The fire trucks came within minutes. We hadn't met the people who lived on either side of the fire either, and we watched with concern across the line of fire trucks until those neighbors also came outside, which eventually they did. We sat in the yard until the fire was just smoke. The next day, everyone stopped to talk. We met people we hadn't talked to before, who got more names and phone numbers. Someone took up a door-to-door collection for the family. We all felt the urgency to connect. It's a poor metaphor for unprecedented changes at the planetary scale, but that's where I think I can be useful. I'm not making governmental policies, and my personal decisions are dwarfed by companies. Honestly, I need to get through each day without sinking into despair. But I can show up for my neighbors, my friends, my community. I can try to expand my community outside the middle class, predominantly white suburban spot I live. I can find joy, so I'm not trying to pour from an empty cup. When I think about climate change, I think about community. We need structural shifts, cultural and political shifts. We need the system to work when disasters happen, and we need the system to work for everyone. But I think about meeting my neighbors. I want to talk about the weather, the dogs, trade phone numbers, and when we need something, I want to be able to reach out and be there for each other. Thanks.
Hey everyone, we had a printing error, so I'm going to be reading off my phone, so I might be looking down a little more than is usual. My name is Ian Barnhart. I am 16 years old, and I moved to Northampton in 2010. When I was about 4 years old, we got a snowstorm that piled up the fluffy white flakes to my waist, and I loved it. I played in it, shoveled it, and ate it, and then every year after that, I would wait for the foot of snow that was bound to happen every year. And then that stopped. Not drastically at first, no. At first it was just 2 inches off, then 3 the next year, but by the time I was 10, I had a winter break snow-free. In late elementary school, I would go to a sports camp over the summer, where I would play tennis and soccer for 6 hours each day and go swimming in the middle. It was great. I loved playing sports, and this was a great way for me to make friends and do something I loved while giving my parents a well-deserved break from dealing with me over the summer. However, my second year of the camp had a major upset. It was too hot to be outside. Unfortunately for a sports camp, there really wasn't much else to do, and the year after that, COVID hit. I knew enough about climate change by that point to understand that having a winter without snow and then a camp called off for heat wasn't in the normal swing of things. And at age 11, my summer didn't really have much else going for it. Weather is current and short-term, whereas climate is long-term. Climate change, meaning the changing conditions for decades, means that in 34 years, I will have my 50th birthday. And through those 34 years, temperature will continue to increase and everyone's lives will change drastically. And this isn't new information. We've had it for decades, yet we really only chose to make changes in the past 15 years when the climate is at the worst it's ever been. I've always tried to maintain a positive mentality about the environment, but it's a weird thing to live with, being told that there's a chance that if I live to 100, I won't be able to visit parts of Boston because they will be underwater, and places that are on the map now will be erased all over the world. It can feel overwhelming. However, there are some things I try to do to help positively impact the climate. If there's somewhere I want to go and it's a bikeable distance, then I bike. If I have to drive, then I carpool. I and my family try to buy in bulk packaging rather than single-serve plastics. And arcing over all of this is the motivational knowledge of what it is like to be left in this eroding world, having to fix it and make it whole to the extent possible, and not wanting that for the next generation.
Thank you, everyone. Please rise in body and spirit for hymn 1073. I think it's in your teal book. Is that right? Yes. 1074. Turn the World Around by Harry Belafonte.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Oh, so is life. Ah.
To Be of Use by Marge Percy. The people I love the best jump into work head first without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that hold corn are put in museums, but you know they are made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
What